الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinatul arshihi wa midada kalimatihi wa muntaha ilmihi wa jami'a ma sha'a wa khalaqa wa dara'a wa bara. Alim al-ghayb wa shahadatu ar-Rahman ar-Rahim al-Malik al-Qudus al-Aziz al-Hakim. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. أما بعد فيقول الله تعالى في كتابه لا موجع من الله إلا إليه لا موجع من الله إلا إليه. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah. We thank Him for sending our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an example and as a warner. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with this day of gathering that He has mentioned in the Quran when He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm Jumu'ati fas'aw illa dhikrillahi wa dharul bay'a dhalikum khayrun lakum in kuntum ta'lamun. O you who believe, when the call is made for a Jumu'ah prayer, hasten to the remembrance of Allah. Fas'aw illa dhikrillah, the remembrance of Allah. That is better if you but knew. Walhamdulillah, we are living in interesting times. We are living in interesting times. We are living in strange times. We are living in times that, as they say, cool heads prevail. Cool heads prevail. There's something that you have to know about the human psychology. If you keep hearing something over and over and over and over and over and over again, it's going to affect you. I always give the example of someone who listens to the radio. And he hears a song for the first time. And he says, "The song is trash. I don't even like it." But this person listens to the radio all day. And I don't listen to the music radio now, but I listen to it enough to know that the same songs play like every hour, at least once or twice. So if you listen to the radio, that song that you don't like is going to come on 2 or 3 times in the same hour. And if you're listening to the radio, that song that you initially heard and didn't like, it didn't appeal to you, after a few listens, you will be tapping your feet to that song. You will know the lyrics and you will like it. When you initially didn't like it, because they keep beating that song into you, beating, they beat that song into you. So that song is not your cup of tea. But now you like the song. And you may even voluntarily play the song on your own. You may even purchase it. Spotify, stream it. When you initially heard it, you didn't like it. That's the effect of the media. They have the ability to repeat the same thing over and over and over again in large numbers. And it will affect you. So in November, December that just passed, we heard about outbreak of what is called the coronavirus. And they call it coronavirus because when you look at the virus under a microscope, it has these points on it. It looks like a crown. And the word for crown is corona. It's a synonym for crown. And there are many different strains of coronavirus. Just like there are many strains of the flu virus. For example, many of us, not me, but many of us get our flu shots annually. Not me. Because they recommend it. Get your flu shot. Have you gotten your flu shot? If you pay attention to what they tell you, and I'm not talking about conspiracy, I'm just talking about what they tell you, not what they repeat over and over and over again to you. So you drive down the street and you see big banners and flyers, free flu shots at this or that drugstore. Every other medicine you need to sustain life is going to cost you, the co-pays is killing you, but free flu shot. So you get your flu shot every year, but they tell you, the experts, the same ones who are telling you to get the flu shot every year, they will tell you that the flu shot that you're getting in any given year is ineffective against the strain of flu that is going to affect your area that year. So inquiring minds want to know, why take it? If it's not going to protect you against the flu strain that is coming out that particular season. But common sense, logic, optimism don't matter. Just get your flu shot. And by the way, nothing I say here is medical advice. I don't give medical advice. I'm not a doctor and I'm not pretending to be. I'm just saying, inquiring minds want to know. I don't know if you notice, I observe things. Most people that I know who have gotten the flu shot actually get the flu after they get the shot. They say this is normal. So getting a shot to protect me from something so I won't get it. And the side effect of taking the shot is getting the thing I want to get protected from. Okay, that makes sense. So every year there's a low-level scare with the flu. So back to what we were saying, in late 2019, we hear about this coronavirus. And when we heard about this thing, we heard some truths, some half-truths, like on social media, this picture circulated with an Asian woman eating a bat soup. They say, see, this is why the coronavirus is because they eating bats over there in China. That was actually fake news. That was from Korea, I believe. It wasn't necessarily from China, where they say this coronavirus originated from. And it originated from this, what they call wet market, or what they call fish market. It's a market where they sell exotic animals for consumption. And you know, as Americans, a lot of the food that the Asians eat, we won't eat. But they eat a lot of stuff we won't eat. And they have their reasons for doing it, what have you. That's not my area of expertise. And so this market, a lot of these animals are sold. And so this took place in Wuhan, China. And so they say this is where it comes from. But then at the same time, they say the first documented case of coronavirus came from a person that had no connection to this market. So there's a lot of contradictory information out there. So it spread, and it spread, and they kept hyping it up and hyping it up. And so now we are where we at today, where effective today, they announced it a couple of days ago, but effective today, they banned travel between the United States and 26 European countries. And so if you have travel plans or anything like that between these 26 countries in Europe, you should check the status of your flight or what have you. But some of these things is really laughable because they excluded the UK from the travel ban, right in the middle of Europe. And in the magazine, the Business Insider, you know, they speculate that because Trump has golf courses there, so this is why the travel ban is not implemented in the UK. I'm just getting you up to speed if you're not up to speed on what's going on. We like to be a people that think. I mentioned yesterday when we made the announcement with regards to Masjid al-Mu'min and having Jumu'ah, that a reporter who was in Italy, and if you've been watching the news, you know they have a major health crisis in Italy with regards to the coronavirus. There was a journalist in Italy, in the cities where they have the heaviest infection rate of the coronavirus. She was there, covering it as a journalist. Remember, there's a ban on all of these European countries. You know, we're really looking into this. We're really serious, guys. She put on her Twitter that when she got back to the United States and she went through customs, they didn't stop her, they didn't detain her, they didn't question her, nothing. She just came from Italy. And those of you who never traveled outside of the United States, when you enter a country, they stamp your passport, but the country you've been in. So when you come back through customs, they look at your passport, they know where you've been. You got the stamp and the date in it. So she's coming back, not just from any European country, she's coming back from Italy, and she just walks through customs. They say that because one or two players, two I believe now, maybe more, NBA players on the Utah Jazz tested positive for the coronavirus. This is what led to them suspending the NBA season. And many other sports leagues have suspended their seasons. And all of the teams who played with or against the Utah Jazz are going to get tested. In many cities and municipalities around the country, they put limits on how many people can gather in bars or clubs or anything like this. Because they say that this virus, even though they claim not to know anything about it, they say that it is carried in the fluids. And so if you cough or sneeze, these fluids come out. And if anyone touches or comes in contact with the fluid and they touch their eyes or anything, it can be spread to you. And they say it has a long incubation period. Some say 2 days, some say 5 days. So you can have it and spread it and not know it all of that time before you even get a symptom. And they say the symptoms are a cough, specifically a dry cough, and a fever. A cough and a fever. When I first heard about it, I was like, a cough and a fever. I get that a few times a year. I just had it 2 weeks ago. I was down for about 4 or 5 days. I assumed it was the flu. Alhamdulillah. Life moves on. I think the most serious flu I ever had was about 15 years ago. I was coming home from work and I felt the fever come on. I just automatically started sweating, and then I got the chills, and then I sweat, and I got the chills. Then the body aches came, and by the time I made it home, I was on my hands and knees crawling in the door. A week later, I was normal again. They say that the coronavirus, even if you get it, most likely you will recover. But the ones who are especially at risk are those who are elderly, particularly above 60, and have other underlying health conditions. So this coronavirus, which deals with the respiratory system, can complicate other sicknesses and illnesses that you may have, in the same way that many other illnesses does. And so because of this, and based upon the advice of medical professionals, many masajid around the country and around the world have suspended Jumu'ah prayers. In a lot of countries and a lot of cities, there is no Jumu'ah at many masjids. And so I just wanted to take the first few minutes of this Jumu'ah Khutbah, if you haven't been aware of what's going on, just to keep you abreast of what's going on. Walhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salatu wa tamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa radiyallahu ta'ala an sadat al-tabi'in وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Alhamdulillah. Today we want to spend the last few minutes that we have. We want to talk about panic, fear, hysteria. This is what we want to talk about for the next few minutes. You know, there's something I noticed. You know, a lot of people that excel in this life, in many different, excel in business, excel in their trade, or excel in whatever they do. I notice a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have military background. When you find someone that's successful, and this is what successful people do. Successful people, or people that aspire to be successful, they look at other people that are successful and they get into their life. They find their biography, their daily habits, or anything. And many successful people have a background in the military. This is something I've noticed. And many of those people that have a background in the military, when they enter civilian life, they draw upon the discipline that they learned in the military to hone their craft. And if you know anything about the military, especially if you're deep into it at the higher levels and the higher ranks, you imagine and fantasize about your own death. You think about your death. You think about it often. You imagine it. Even certain people in the special forces, they write their own obituary. You know, when you die, people write about you. They write their own obituary. They're thinking about their death. You might say, well, are you telling us to imitate the kuffar? No. I'm telling you to imitate the messenger of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, do much remembrance of the destroyer of pleasures, ya'ani maut. And that is death. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, contemplate death often. We should be thinking about death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kulu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Thumma alayhi turja'un. Every soul, every person has to experience, has to taste death. We know we're not going to escape it. Why aren't we preparing for it? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked, Mata sa'a, when is the hour? In other words, when is the day of judgment? When is this life going to be over with? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't say, well, in about such and such 1,000 years. No, he said, what have you prepared for it? What have you prepared for it? Don't worry about when it's coming. Worry about if you're prepared for it. See, a lot of us are hyped, excited, because we aren't prepared for it. A ta'un, a plague, is a win-win situation for the believer. If you get afflicted with it, you get sick, and you heal, Allah remove many of your sins in the process. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that a believer does not get afflicted with anything except that Allah uses it to remove some of his sins, even if it's the pricking of a thorn. So if any of us get it, well, alhamdulillah. What do we say when we are afflicted with anything? Not only when someone dies, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It is from Allah we came and it's Allah that we return. If we die because of the plague, we die the death of a shaheed, a martyr. Win-win. I'm not saying that we should be careless, that we should not follow medical advice. And what are the doctors and the specialists telling us? They're telling us that we should be doing what Muslims do anyway. Wash their hands all the time. But this is like revelation. It's like, like the secret knowledge. Like some Illuminati type stuff. Wash your hands. Why? Because we live in a society where people will use the bathroom. You've been in public bathrooms before. You've seen people walk straight out the toilet. You heard it. You smelt it. And they looking at you crazy because you're making wudu in the sink. And they'll look in the mirror and leave and not even wash their hands. This is the type of people you're dealing with. So you tell them to wash their hands. It'll cure something. Oh, wow. Really? Even those of them who are concerned and are not that foul, they will use hand sanitizer before they wash their hands. They'll walk out of that toilet, look at the sink with the running water, and go next to it and ignore that and use the hand sanitizer and leave. So you have to understand, because we Muslims, a lot of times we in a bubble, we making wudu, we washing our hands, we making ghusl, we concerned about najasa, filth getting on our clothes, our body, our place of prayer, we thinking about all of these things, so cleanliness is always in our mind. That's us. Them, they look at us like we're crazy. Like I said, we making wudu, there's water on the floor. Backwards Muslim. Meanwhile, he just finished all types of fecal matter, urine on his hand, and he walking out the bathroom, and he's looking at you like you a barbarian. This is the type of people we're dealing with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that there is no refuge from Allah except to Him. Like a lot of times you running from something, you can't escape it. The best way to get away from it is to go to it. Because any disease, any pestilence, any plague, or anything like this, it is up to Allah if He afflicts you with it or not. Yes, you trust in Allah. Yes, you tie your camel. You take precautions. But if you think about what we just mentioned, people that have a certain discipline, they're not panic mode. Don't sleep. We call the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, we call that seerah. This is what we call it now. During the time of the Salaf, the first 3 generations of Muslims, they called seerah, they use another word for it. They call it maghazi, which means wars or battles. Because a lot of the biography of the Prophet ﷺ is entrenched or interspersed or based in battles. So this is why I made the connection between successful people and their background in the military and us. Because we learn a lot of lessons, because combat is an extreme situation. It's not like civilian life. And those people who survive those extreme situations and maintain that discipline, they excel in civilian life. You know, some of the believers of old, they would literally, I'm not exaggerating, they would dig their own grave in their backyard. And they would get in it and lay in it and close their eyes and contemplate death. These are the people that we follow. If you have that type of mentality, you're not scared. When the British were trying to subdue the Sudanese, when they were trying to colonize Sudan, one of their generals wrote back home to the UK. And because this is what he was experiencing. They had these, these highly advanced mechanisms of modern warfare for the time period. And these Muslims fighting with the ones who had guns, had these little cheap little muskets, one shot, swords, bow and arrow. And they have these big Gatling guns, they turning the big thing, and these bullets are spitting out and all that kind of stuff. And the Muslims are still getting to him after he gets hit with the bullets, and he kills 2 or 3 of them before he drops. And he wrote back home to the British, he said, how can we defeat a people when they look down the barrels of our guns, they see the leaves of paradise? And thereby, there's a win-win situation. You here trying to oppress us, okay, let's fight. But we got all this, don't you want to surrender? No, ain't no surrender. They already thought about their death 1,000,000 times. Khalid ibn Walid, Saifullah, the sword of Allah, the title given him by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, died in his bed. And he was mad about that. All the battles he done fought against Islam, for Islam, threw himself in harm's way, and he died in his bed, and he was upset about that. He actually had a deathbed and not dying on the battlefield. My first advice to you all is contemplate death a lot, every day. Make it part of your life. Think about death. And don't listen to these people. It won't make you miserable. It'll make you appreciate your life. It'll make you live your life to the fullest. Think about your death. Think about what people are going to be saying about you at your funeral. Think about when the angels are going to question you. When they ask you, who is Allah? Who is this man? Meaning Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what was your deen? And reflect on the fact that you're not going to be able to answer those questions based upon your intellect, because you study for it like a test. You're going to be able to answer those questions based upon how you obeyed Allah in this life. Think about that. Think about the pleasures or the punishment of the grave. Think about crossing the Sirat, the bridge over the hellfire. And contemplate on the speed that you might cross that bridge with. Contemplate that. Think about it. Contemplate on it. And don't get caught up in the fear. Pumping that information over and over and over again. Coronavirus, COVID-19, coronavirus, COVID-19, this closed, that closed. Oh, a couple people sent me an inbox. They're going to shut down the government in 2 weeks. I just got word. They leaked it out. My cousin worked for the government. They're going to shut everything down in 2 weeks. We're going to go to the store, supermarket, get the shopping cart, fill it up. With what? Toilet paper. Not soap, not water, toilet paper. Right? This is us. Make you think irrationally. You know, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the cave with Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, reflect on this. The Quraysh were tracking. They had a warrant for their murder. Not a warrant for their arrest, a warrant for their murder. They said they wanted them preferably dead. And the Quraysh were literally right on their heels. We don't appreciate it. Because the cave was extremely small, and their feet was like sticking out of it. If you read the Sirah, you see where Abu Bakr Siddiq said, Ya Rasulullah, if they just look down, they're going to see us. This is after Abu Bakr got bit by a scorpion by putting his foot on a hole so to protect so no animals will come out and bite the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as he getting bit, poisoned, and everything, he has a right to be alarmed and panicking. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, and he said this is in the Quran. This is in Surah Tawbah. He said, Inna Allah ma'ana. He said, La tahzan. Inna Allah ma'ana. Don't fear. Indeed, Allah is with us. He said, don't fear. Indeed, Allah is with us. Then what does Allah say after that? فَأَنزَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ سَكِينَتَهُ. And then Allah's tranquility descended upon them. You know, Abu Bakr Siddiq said, after that very day, I have never worried about anything again in my life. Allah descended the Sakina on him. And you find that consistently throughout the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We talk about the battle of Badr and all of the hype and the excitement and all that stuff. But we don't talk about the fact that it rained right before the battle. And all of the Sahaba were sleeping. They were knocked out. The Sakina hit them. You about to fight. You ever been in beef or military or war, even the street beef, and you know when it's about to go down, it's tense. You can't sleep. The Sahaba were sleeping. And I got a graphic imagination. I figured they always knocked out, snoring, drooling, and they're about to go to war. Allah's Sakina descended upon them. This is the tradition that we base ourselves upon. This is what we're following. We don't get caught up in their hype. We are cool, calm, and collective. We take our precautions, but we recognize this is a win-win situation for us. The only thing we can do is win or win bigger. That's the only thing that can happen. Don't get caught up in the hype. And mind you, there are two Americas in conclusion. More than two, but there are two Americans. Some of us don't trust the medical establishment. Now I know a lot of you you're not gonna like this. A lot of you gonna say this is irresponsible speech. But some of us have a history in this country. Some of us know about the Tuskegee experiment. Some of us know about them giving black people syphilis purposely, and then sitting and watching to see the effect of the disease as it progresses on the person. They use us as guinea pigs. And that's not a one-off situation. We have that history. And so you have to excuse some of us when some of you all hyped up and excited, and some of us are like, for real? There's a long documented history. They've even written books about it. Get one book called Medical Apartheid. So some of you trust the information that you have uncritically, and some of us don't trust the information, and we're not doctors, so we have to kind of wait. I ain't no doctor. I don't know this stuff, but it's not adding up. Common sense. One of the elephants in the room is people are wondering, why aren't a lot of black people getting affected? A lot of y'all don't recognize this, but the last time I checked, which was yesterday, it was a few dozen people, for example, in the African continent that got it. None of them are African. The only two black people I know who caught it were the NBA players that I just mentioned. And there was a news report about someone in Newark, New Jersey who went there and got tested for it. They thought he had it, but he had a hangover. Am I saying that black people are immune to it? No, I'm not a doctor. But at least a couple of I am. Hearing about a thing is not like seeing it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not going to ignore what I'm seeing. I don't know. I'm not saying that black people are free and clear. Maybe it has a longer incubation period. I don't know. But you mean to tell me that the disease showed up in Africa and everybody's getting it except Africans, And the Africans in the diaspora, most of us, none of us are getting it. And then I've seen articles where people said, you know, this is a myth that black people are not getting the coronavirus. And I read these articles, and the elephant in the room with regards to those articles is they didn't present one case where black people got it. So I'm reading this long article, I'm like, okay, when you going to give an example of black people getting it? And they don't ever give the example. And again, this is before the two people that got it on the MBA. I'm saying all of this to say there's a lot that they don't know about the disease. There's even more that we don't know about the disease. And when the blind cannot show the blind how to see. So use your common sense, take your precautions, and don't get caught up in a panic. For a believer, this is a win-win situation. Either we get sick and get some diseases or some sins removed from us, or we get sick and die as a martyr. And again, that doesn't mean be careless, wash your hands and everything like this, but don't panic. As the Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, Inna Allah ma'ana. Allah is with us. And may Allah protect us. Amen. And may Allah heal those who are sick. Amen. And may Allah allow level heads to prevail. Amen. And may Allah strengthen the hearts of the believers. Amen. And may Allah protect us from getting caught up in the propaganda. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار.